Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to Get Well, Stay Well. I'm Felicity Corbin-Wheeler, and it's great to have you back with us. And today I have Peter Willoughby back with me again. We did a fabulous program, and it was just so very interesting to hear about Peter's catastrophic accident and the way he's got himself well and stayed well. So Peter, welcome back. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So we'll just run through what happened the first time for some viewers who haven't seen the first program. So you were 17, you tell them, you were run over, you were hit when you were on your motorbike.
Yes, Felicity. I was 17 years old, and it was just a bad accident, a very bad accident actually. Head-on collision with a chap driving a lorry who was drunk. He decided that he didn't want to stay around for whatever reason. He popped the lorry into reverse gear, ran over me, and put it into first gear, drove away and ran over me again. I didn't point out in the first show, but the lorry had my bike embedded in the front of it, so needless to say the engine blew up, and he was actually caught by the police, but it just left me smashed to pieces on the road.
So you took 2 years really to recover. You were a month in a coma, and
Yes.
then you woke up again. Your parents must have been so relieved to see you awake, and then you had to struggle through the wheelchair scene and the crutches, and eventually got yourself going again.
That's right, yes. I went through the pain of being in a wheelchair for over a year. It really wasn't easy at a time when wheelchair accessibility was unheard of back in the early 80s, and several years on crutches, and many years more using walking sticks and other walking apparatus. I still use various dare I say, splints and frames in my legs today, but I try and hide that as best I can.
But you know, to see you now sitting looking picture of health here on the set, it's such an encouragement to viewers who may well be going through rough times themselves. So you did actually restore your immune system, and you helped yourself with the minerals.
Yes, I did. There was a lot of work that I was doing previously, and you know, to cut a lot of the story out, and again on the previous show we went through a lot of this, and if the viewers would kindly look at the other show that we did, they will see a lot more detail. But really I looked forward into what was going to prevent the future problems that I was told I was going to have, i.e. you know, worsening arthritis, you know, joints that would seize up, and ultimately to go back in a wheelchair, which is something that I just didn't want.
Absolutely. So you went and got the minerals from America, these special minerals,
Yes.
from a special source, underground source?
Yes, that's correct. I did a lot of research as to what really was the fundamentals of health, the real basics of health. The air that we breathe should be clean, the water we drink again should be clean, and the food we consume should have a full spectrum of minerals within the food. Unfortunately, the foods today do not have a full spectrum of minerals, so I had to go and source what are food state minerals, which I found, as you know, in America, and eventually it was those minerals that you know, I'm blessed that saved my life. Hence why, you know, today I'm actually talking to people, educating people about the benefits of consuming minerals that are ultimately from a plant source.
I learned that as a nurse, that you know, it is the minerals that are the basis, and then when you're well mineralized, you can then start getting the vitamins into the body. So after this, you had a great career, you got yourself going, got into the city, had a great career, and then you did have another health problem, didn't you? Tell us about that.
I did, yes. The story, does it get worse or does it get better, some people will say. But I eventually got myself up and running, back into society. You know, I was a fighter. I would fight every day, as I mentioned before, that I used to set myself little goals about walking an extra 5 feet one day. Then the next day, I would try and walk an extra 10 feet. They were tiny steps for the average person, but for me they were huge leaps. And I eventually found myself working for a fantastic company in the city, and then I realized it was at that point there that I was trading my time in life for, you know, working in an environment which ultimately, and as we know, is quite polluted, and the whole aspect around health was jumping out at me, that I had to make sure I prevented myself from going back into a wheelchair. So it was at that point that I really started to investigate the minerals, found a good source in America and started to buy them and consume them.
And then you had the heart problem afterwards. So tell us how the heart problem was really caused by the motorbike accident.
Yeah, let's look at that. And this is probably one of the most amazing parts of what it is I like to share with people, because it's quite a traumatic incident. If we go back to 1980, when I first had the accident, it was a head-on collision. Impact speed was estimated to be about 100 miles an hour. And my heart was dislodged, my heart was torn. That impact kills you. You do not survive. It's something that, you know, I know today that people who have that unfortunate trauma just don't survive. However, I did.
But many people have a heart problem, don't they?
Yes.
And you had an aneurysm.
Correct.
Which a lot of people are probably fighting an aneurysm at the moment.
Correct. And unbeknown to them, because what that did is that accident caused a weakness in the aorta, and it was in the aortic arch, which is the strongest part of the aorta. And over the years, that was gradually growing and growing into a pretty large aneurysm. If you like, I've got a couple of pictures that I can just show the viewers.
I'd love to see them. Yes.
Okay. Now, if we take a look at this, this actually shows the aneurysm, and the little round part on this side here, that's the heart, and that's the aortic arch, and again the ball-shaped item that looks like a baby's head is in fact the aortic aneurysm. And we do actually have some videos of some of the tests that were conducted showing the insides of the aneurysm with the blood flow, which is actually quite important for what we're talking about today. And I'll just show you another picture that's a little bit more explanatory. That's another one of the aneurysm. Again, a bit more pictorial. And this is the angiogram, and this is where the heart would sit down here, and this is the aneurysm. Now this is just a fraction smaller than the real size. The aneurysm was 10.5 centimeters in diameter. Yeah. That is absolutely unheard of. The professor that did my test was Anthony Rickards at the Royal Brompton in London, and he was absolutely totally gobsmacked, to put a better word on it, to say that the inside of my arteries were abnormal, and they were abnormally clean. And what he meant by that, when they did one of the other tests that maybe we can show later on video, it shows the blood flow going through the arteries and then going around the aneurysm, which he referred to like it was a washing machine spinning around. And the one thing that he was very, very keen to point out is that there was no turbulence. And I didn't understand what he meant by turbulence, so I asked a question. And he said, usually when you've got blood flow, you'll see turbulence on the inner walls of the arteries. And the turbulence actually shows that there's a plaque build-up or some form of hardening, as some people would term it, of the arteries. Now, had there been a plaque build-up and had the arteries have been hardened on the inside, this aneurysm would have burst. The fact that, and the best way to put it, is the fact that the inner artery walls were elastic, allowed that to grow, allowed that to expand, and God bless, it didn't burst. Had it burst, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. And one thing that really came out of this was, had it not been for me consuming these minerals for several years prior, my arteries would have been like anybody else. They would have been calcified or indeed with plaque, and this would have burst. So I'm absolutely thrilled that in the early years I looked to prevent myself going in a wheelchair. Unbeknown to me, had I not done what I had done with the minerals, this would have burst, and I wouldn't be here today to share this.
Incredible. So you produce the minerals and the vitamins that are absolutely essential as the building blocks. And then you went on and you produced something for the heart as well called CardioFlow, didn't you, which I'm taking.
Yes, we did. We looked at, I've got a good team of people now that work alongside me, And we looked at what really mattered, what was really important. It wasn't important just to take a product, sell it to make money. That's not what we're about. We're about what is the real education, where we can provide benefits. Everything starts from minerals, and then we work upwards from minerals. And just to expand on you mentioned the cardiovascular product. It's an L-arginine, L-citrulline complex. And one of the reasons I looked at this was when we read a lot of the studies that were produced by the scientists behind it. We looked at also arterial health and brain health, because one thing that we didn't touch on is after I had the operation to remove the aneurysm, I had a rather large blood clot on the brain.
Wow.
That was at the point where it was about to hemorrhage. So I was wheeled into another life or death operation where I had 2 rather large boreholes that were drilled in my head to remove this blood clot. So again, another couple of straight lines in my record occurred. I'm blessed to be here once again after that operation. And L-arginine, L-citrulline, we looked at that after the minerals to see what else we could provide that was of genuine benefit. And we've got this view that if it's a Me Too product and there aren't any real substantiated benefits that can be provided, why do it?
It's amazing. So every health problem that you've had, you've actually turned to good, which is so biblical. You've turned it to good for things like inflammation as well. You found a curcumin thing that is so difficult to actually be assimilated by the body, but you've been able to put the curcumin into an easily assimilated form, haven't you?
That's correct. It's a liquid curcumin that we've sourced now, and there's a little special twist with this. There's a capsule that it's encapsulated in called a LICAP. It's a twin capsule, and that in itself enables it to pass through to the part of the body that will most benefit. A bit like the L-arginine, L-citrulline product, that comes in a tablet form, or in a chewable tablet form, because the best absorption from research is actually through the mouth and the saliva. So again, it's not about providing a product, it's about providing a product that has genuine benefits and works.
And they're all natural as well. This is the great thing. It's
Yes,
not a
of course.
synthetic thing.
Of
You know, when
course.
we have curries and we have the turmeric and the curcumin,
Yes.
of course we are getting an anti-inflammatory into the body, but we can't get enough by just having curries. So, you know, I used to not think that we needed supplements, but I now realize when our food supply is so depleted of minerals now,
Yes.
we really do need to supplement these things.
Yes, we do, and I think, and I will digress slightly if you don't mind, just looking at food, and again looking at nutrients in our food. I always look at breakfast cereal, and breakfast cereal is actually one of my pet hates, because you see certain companies with their flaked corn that the government recently asked them to put some nutrients in. So you will see the term fortified with vitamins and minerals, and when you look at the minerals they put in the fortified products, they're usually just what we call cheap and cheerful metallic minerals. And as we touched on the previous show, the manufacturers will use, in effect, ground up iron ore as their iron supplement. So where it says fortified with iron, I always urge the consumer to turn the label round and look at the form of iron. And in most cases, there will be an iron citrate, an iron nitrate, or there will be an iron form that is a man-made iron form using metallic minerals. And it's something that's not particularly welcome for the human body.
And in fact, you used a magnet, didn't you, to actually prove this to somebody?
Yes, I must share this. There are a couple of videos on YouTube, and if people go to YouTube and just put iron in my cereal, they'll see some fascinating pictures that will come up, because if you get a box of your favourite breakfast cereal, some of the flake cereals, and you actually float some of the flakes on top of water, and you get a magnet, you can actually allow the magnet to pull them across the water because of the metallic iron that's in them. And I always share this with so many, parents, that if you're feeding your children with breakfast cereal, it really isn't the most beneficial thing to give them, because the minerals that are contained within the cereal are metallic minerals, and it is just like feeding somebody with a ground up iron bar. Whereas what you find in spinach, the iron you find in spinach, is what we call food state iron. It's naturally occurring iron through the food, which is the iron that the body needs.
Yes, absolutely. So it's going back to all natural things, the elements that God has put on earth for us. And isn't it interesting that you've been able to get these into a form that people can actually take? And another of the big problems is obesity, as we know. Huge problem, literally huge problem. And you've managed to put something with glucomannan, haven't you, which is really working well. Glucomannan.
Oh, glucomannan, yes.
Yeah.
The glucomannan is a pretty well-known nutrient, which is scientifically tested, and it's one of the products that people can actually make, including ourselves, can make claims that it will aid people with weight loss. The best thing with weight loss, as we know, is to focus on one's diet. But depending on where you are in the world, there are so many different forces around you that don't allow you the time or the ability to actually focus on your diet as you would like to. And in some cases, even with weight loss, supplementation can actually be a part of the regime. Obviously, we would always advise people to look at the natural food way of taking care of their diet. But if it's something that they really feel they need to, supplement, i.e. using glucosamine, then it's a product that we do have available that is actually working extremely well.
And what I love about it is that you've put some B vitamin in as well, because those B vitamins are so important, because people get low, they get hungry, they get faint, they feel down when they're trying to cut down on their food. So you've put those vitamin B, that's the thiamine and all the other vitamins, the pyridoxine, you put them all in there, which is really wonderful because it boosts the immune system and makes people feel better as they lose weight. So really, Peter, I think you've addressed the main health problems that people have. We live in such a polluted world, don't we? And our food, even if we're getting what we call organic food, and of course all food is organic, as we agree.
Yes.
And it's just what's happened to it, what it's been sprayed with. But we are so deficient in those basic building blocks.
Yes, and the term organic is something that doesn't sit very well with me, because, as you said quite rightly, everything that grows is organic. And organic certified food only means that the soil has been tested to a certain point, that it's free of toxins, insecticides and pesticides. Now here begs the question, I am interested in what's on the soil, but I'm more interested in what's in the soil, because if the minerals and the other nutrients are not in the soil where the food is grown, then the food is going to be void of many nutrients. So when you look at organic food, I say to people, it's potentially less harmful for you. It's not necessarily more nutritious. The more nutritious food is grown in nutrient-rich soils. And I think the other question with organic that we've got to be mindful of is, we see, and I know an organic farm that's not far from a runway of a major airport, and they grow organic produce. And all day long you've got aircraft flying overhead, just dumping out heaps of toxins from their engines, that's going all over the soil. So my question is how long before that soil becomes polluted? Yes, we must always wash our fruit, veg that we buy, no matter whether it's organic or not. But we all have to be very mindful of these very, very basic things that sometimes we turn a blind eye to, because it says it's organic, it must be good, and that's not necessarily the case.
So really we have to do the best we can. We get the purest food we can. If we can grow it at home, of course that would be ideal, and then at least we know that chemicals haven't been sprayed on it. And to drink the purest water, and again, it's Himalayan salt, we need to get the purest water as well, and I use the distiller, of course. I like distilled water. And then we need to really supplement in order to stay well, because we either degenerate ourselves, either degenerate or regenerate every day, according to what we put into our bodies. And I've been using the minerals for 2 years now, since a Revelation viewer told me about them, and immediately noticed a lot of great things happening with my health and more energy. So you must have had some amazing testimonies. Can you remember some of the testimonies you've had?
There's so many testimonials we've had. I can select from different walks of life, you know, young, old, male, female. A dear friend of mine, a chap that's no longer with us, he suffered from type 2 diabetes. Glaucoma was on its way, which is associated with type 2, as we know, and he was overweight. An elderly gentleman, and he hadn't lost the spark for life, but he really wanted to find something. And I sat down with him a long time ago, many years ago, and said, well, look, you know, your eating habits aren't very good. Look at what you're eating, you know, take control of your own diet, and you know, look at what we do with the minerals. He started taking the minerals, and it made good sense to him. And it took about 18 months. He had lost a tremendous amount of weight. His type 2 diabetes went. There was no signs of glaucoma anymore. And the most grateful thing that he was, you know, thankful for is that all of the prescription drugs that the hospital had given him, he was no longer taking. And we can go from that extreme to people, and it seems to affect young ladies more than it does to chaps, with psoriasis. We've had lots of people with bad psoriasis on their arms, on their legs, and the psoriasis goes. Now, it's probably the case that they're not receiving the nutrition from their diets that their body needs. So we're just putting back what's missing. And the way we like to look at it is the minerals, they're not a cure. They don't cure problems. What they do is they give the body the nutrients the body needs to repair itself.
That's right.
And that's how we like to look at it.
That's right. And you know, there are so many people suffering from things like chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yes.
And they feel depressed, they feel anxious. And of course, when our brains are short of the right minerals, that's going to affect the brain enormously, isn't it? So it's not just a physical thing, it's mental well-being as well.
Yes, it is. And I think with that, what I'd like to do is just touch on another couple of points with one of the particular products, the effervescent tablet that we drop into our glass of water. We put the minerals with sodium bicarbonate. And sodium bicarbonate, as we know, is a very powerful alkalizer.
Yes.
But it's not just that. And as far as brain health is concerned, you touched on ME. We've got strings and strings and strings of testimonials from people seeing wondrous benefits from ME. There's ladies that I know, one particular lady who I was messaging this morning, who was in a wheelchair, no longer in a wheelchair. And we've got other ladies that couldn't face the world, couldn't do any work, now are going back to work, you know, full steam ahead. And it's interesting, by dissolving an effervescent tablet in a glass of water, you're forcing the consumer to drink water.
Yes.
Now, one thing people don't do as much as they should is to drink clean water. So what we're doing here is we're providing clean water, so people drink the water, drink the minerals, so you're getting hydration, you're getting a very, very, very gentle detox that also comes from the minerals as well. But it's the hydration factor that is so important. And that in itself, I believe, is one major factor which has helped a lot of people, certainly from a mental state.
And it's an alkalized water too, isn't it? So
it is, yes.
You're getting pure water that's now alkalized.
Yes.
And so really this is going to address the pH problem most people have, because, you know, we lead a very acid sort of life, very polluted life, which makes acidity in the body. So our pH gets on the wrong side. You know, we have the scale from 1 to 14 and we should be about 7.365. But if, you know, sometimes I lead a very busy life, as you know, and sometimes I just take my minerals in the morning, I take my vitamins, and sometimes I don't have time to eat or drink, maybe for ages, which is quite wrong, I know, because we should be drinking a glass, you know, every hour, as I'm always saying on these shows, the viewers know this. So the thing is, we have to really rehydrate the body properly. And if you can do it with the alkalized water and with the minerals, how much better that is.
Oh, absolutely. And you're quite right. The sodium bicarbonate in itself is quite a popular nutrient, certainly where pH is concerned. And this actually forces, as I mentioned before, it forces people to rehydrate and all the associated benefits from that. are then available. And it's quite shocking to see that people, they look at their fizzy drinks and even to some extent fruit juices. Now fruit juices are essential. I love the vitamins and other nutrients in fruit juice, but again, not too much of it.
Peter, we have about 2 minutes to go on this program. You know, these programs fly by
Don't
when
they?
we chat about health because there's so much that we can share on this. So would you like to speak to your camera and just have 2 minutes?
Just a couple of
with the
minutes. Thank
viewers?
you, Felicity.
Yeah.
Again, I'd just love to thank the team at Revelation TV. They've been a great help and a great support to me over these last couple of shows. The one thing I'd like to get across to everybody is prevention. Think about what you're doing. Everything we do in life is about prevention, certainly from a health point of view. I went on a quest to look at mineralisation, which in my opinion is the absolute basis of where we should be. Start with mineralisation and then think carefully about everything else you're doing. And that's the message I'd like to share with each and every one of you. Felicity, it's been a pleasure as always.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here, Peter, and really we're learning so much, and I think we must have you back again another day. But in the meantime, let's just put it all together. We want to get the right nutrition, we want to get exercise, pure water, as we've
Yes.
said, fresh air,
Yes.
temperance, that's cutting out the really naughty things which we know are going to harm us, and research, and of course trust in God. And I'd just like to end by saying how your spiritual fortitude has really brought you through. I mean, God, I think, had a great plan for your life because he's brought you through 5 flatline situations.
That's correct.
And you're here, so I think you're here for a reason, Peter. And it's wonderful to have someone who's actually got well and stayed well themselves with God's help and using their intelligence, because you've also kept this inexpensive for people, haven't you? You kept it out of the hands of Big Pharma and the high street shops who would have hiked the price. So you've kept this really for the people. People get it direct from the company, no middleman.
That's correct, yes,
Yeah.
Felicity, yes it is.
And you know, you'd be surprised how many of the viewers are actually getting better with the minerals. It's really exciting to me to know that we're making a change in life. So I'd like to thank you so much for coming over. Bless you. And we look
you.
forward to the next program that we'll do together on Get Well and Stay Well.